We're in this series, Over Sharing. We kicked it off last week. And we talked about, in the first week, choosing and seeking faith validation in Jesus over false validation in others. And it was awesome, man. I laid out some challenges at the end, and I seen a lot of cool stuff on social media, on the Connect cards. Brinkley shared some of the prayers that were going on there. But I saw people striking. If you were here, you know what that means. I saw people, saying that they were doing a social media break, or they were, choosing to limit themselves on social media so that it wouldn't control them. They would control it. So it was just really, really cool. Love seeing you guys just take steps in becoming closer to Jesus Christ. So that was really cool. We're going to get into part 2 of our series. But before we do that, I want to pray. So would you guys pray with me? God, I am so thankful, man, just for your strength, just for your power to wake up this morning. And so we are so glad that we are here, that we have breath, that we get to worship you, that we have a new facility in which we can grow in you, God. But today, you want to speak individually to us, God. You have something specific to say to each one of us. And we know that your word has something different to say to each one of us, God. So I just pray right now that each of us would open our hearts, open our minds to hear what you have to say, and then take that and apply it to our lives. Speak through me right now, God. May your word come out. It's in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen. So what we do, we have a lot of kids. We have 8 kids. And what we decided to do is we do these things called late nights. Each kid gets to stay up a little bit later with us on different nights. And we do that just so we can get some one-on-one time with them. And, it just helps because it's constant all the time. And so they're really special times for us each night. And that's something that the kids, man, they look forward to. And it's the one thing, like, we could say, we're going to take that away. And they'd be like, no, don't take late nights. And they love it so much. So I was doing my late night with Seth. I think it was Monday night. And we were just laying in our bed, and he was just sitting there. I'm like, what do you want to do for your late night? And I could tell he wanted to play video games. Normally we'll play games. Sometimes we'll play games, we'll play video games. But most of the time what we do is we read. They'll bring a book and they'll read it to us. And they'll bring another book and we'll read it to them. And we read and we talk. And it's just a special time really to connect, not to play video games. But I could tell he was just sitting there just waiting for me because I love it. And so he tried to use it against me. We were trying to play, he wanted to play video games. So I'm like, no. Go grab a book. We're gonna read a book tonight. And so he goes and grabs a book and he comes back and he hands me, it's like a little kid's Bible devotional thing. He said, here you go. And he specifically says to me, he says, I want to read about the Good Samaritan. I'm like, okay, cool. And so I just love that. He grabbed the Bible and was like, I want to read about this story specifically. And so I flipped through and found the story of the Good Samaritan and began to just talk through everything about that. And what was so cool about this moment is that in this moment that I got to spend with him, because I created margin. If you remember in relationship goals, we talked about having margin so we could have time for the relationships in our lives. I was able, or God was able, to reveal to me what he wanted me to share this week. And it was the story of the Good Samaritan. Like, I had already had a verse picked out and something that I wanted to share. But God said, in this moment, this is what I want you to share. This is the passage of scripture. And he showed me so many cool things and revealed to me what he wanted to share with you. So today, we're going to be looking at the story of the Good Samaritan. And if you have your Bible, you can turn there. It's in Luke chapter 10, verse 30. If not, it's okay. They'll be on the screens in a minute. We're not going there just yet, but you can get ready for that. Now, most of us have probably heard the story of the Good Samaritan. If you've been in church, out of church, you've heard about it. You know about it. And typically, we talk about being a good neighbor. We talk about loving maybe our enemy. We talk about caring for others. And we're going to weave those things in today. But what I want to do is I want to look at the story of the Good Samaritan from a different angle. Really from the angle of generosity, from the angle of generously sharing your 2 cents. Now, I want to explain that to you because as we talk about social media and oversharing and in our lives, we are really good at sharing our 2 cents, right? We're really good at giving people our opinion, especially when we want to argue a point or get a point across, especially when we have something that we want to complain about, or if there's some service that we weren't satisfied with, we share our 2 cents. We definitely do this when we think that someone else should have handled something the way that we should, right? We say it, we let them know, this is how you should have done that. So we're really good at sharing our 2 cents. But one of the things about it is with the internet, with all the social media platforms, it's like the internet is begging us to share our 2 cents with everybody all the time. right? And we go on there and we share our opinions about different things. We share our negative feedback. We definitely, man, if you don't know about this, we subtweet or subpost. If you don't know what subtweeting is or subposting, good for you. Because this is the worst thing. But here's what it is. Someone will post something about someone, and you can tell that they are saying something about someone, and that person probably knows it's about them, and other people might know it as well. And so they say something that's usually, mean or negative in connotation about something. So that's what subtweeting, subposting is, and it's wrong. We'll go on there and we'll, share and, defend our political views. And then we'll also leave ratings and reviews. Now, ratings and reviews have become really big in a lot of things that we do these days, and everything. It's everywhere, with businesses and, going to restaurants and hotels and Airbnb and Uber and Amazon, all these things, every purchase, every product, every company, man, is asking and wants a rating and review. Now, they definitely want a good rating and a good review. Now, I don't know about you, but I have not always been really good about leaving reviews, but I definitely use them. How many of you guys would say, when I look at something, I look at the reviews first? I want to know. Yeah, we all do it. We all use reviews, but I just, for whatever reason, I'm not good at sharing them, or I wasn't. I've gotten a lot better at sharing reviews. We went on a trip. It was a couple months back, and we were, driving down the interstate, and it was with all of our family. And it was getting late, and we, of course, wanted to get something to eat. And so I got on my phone and looked up restaurants, and I saw that there was a Zaxby's. You got anybody like the Zaxby's out there? Zaxby's chicken? All right. People that didn't, I'm sorry. We'll pray for you. So anyway, so we found a Zaxby's. We love Zaxby's, so we went there. The kids love it. And listen, when me and my family roll up into any place, listen, here's the deal. People are like, you take that one, right? Especially if we go to a sit-down restaurant, they're like, oh, too many kids. And so, it's one of those things. There's tons of us, and they're all little like chihuahuas running around us and stuff like that. And so it's kind of a crazy sight to see. So we roll up into Zaxby's, and there wasn't a big line or anything, but the lady behind the counter, kind of saw that we were a big family. And man, this I don't know if she was the manager. She didn't have a manager name tag on or anything, but she was phenomenal. And we were telling her what we were trying to do, and we were looking at the menu and trying to figure out how, because when we go out to eat, it costs a lot of money if we get every one of our kids something, okay? So what we try to do is we try to find the biggest thing, and we split those things and say, here, this is what you get. And so we're explaining this to the lady, and we're like, yeah, we're going to share, these two kids are going to share this, and this kid's going to share this, and this kid will have a little bit of our fries over here. And she's like, here's what we can do. And she said, here's the best way to do that. She's like, get this meal, get this. And she laid it all out for us. And I'm like, yes, Lord, this is awesome. And then she was just so helpful and so wonderful. And then she pulled out this card. I don't know if you know this or not, but Zaxby's has like a guest rewards card. I'd never gotten one of those in my life, and I love Zaxby's. She gave me this, she filled out this card. She marked out like all the rewards except for one. So the next time that I came, I would get a free meal. And it was just awesome, amazing service. And, she said, go sit down. We'll bring everything to you. And I was just impressed. I was so impressed, man, that after we left, I went on to Yelp or whatever, and I wrote a review and said, this is the best Zaxby's I have ever been to. I would tell you guys to go check it out, but I don't remember where it is. So there's that. Maybe go on Yelp. I don't know. But it was just one of those things in that moment. I realized that, like, man, I should leave more reviews. I should leave more ratings about really just the amazing people that serve us. Because, I constantly use them to help me, but why don't I contribute? So, man, that was just one of those things with reviews. Now, there are a lot of statistics about reviews and sharing reviews and stuff like that, and consumers taking them. It says 90% of consumers, 90% read online reviews, 88% trust online reviews, 72% of consumers say that positive reviews make them trust a business more. And this number is kind of crazy. It says 86% of consumers will decide against going somewhere or buying something based off of a negative review. 86%. Now, reviews and ratings are great. How many of you, just by a show of hands real quick, before coming to Kairos, before checking it out, you went online to our website, to Google, to Facebook, you looked at videos, you looked at ratings and reviews, you looked at pictures and all that stuff. How many of you guys did that first? It's most of the room, and the rest of them were already a part of it. They had no choice. They knew me already. So yeah, we do that. We want to know what we're getting into before we get into it. And what's crazy about it is we will take into consideration the opinion of a complete stranger. A complete stranger. What they thought, what they experienced. And we're like, oh, they hated it? Well, I hate it. All right? And that's kind of, it's a crazy thing, but that's ratings and reviews kind of drive everything that way. And when you start looking at ratings and reviews, you get to that 1-star review and you're like, okay, why'd this person hate it, right? There could be 50 5-star reviews. You see that one star? That's the one that's going to sway you. That's the one that you're going to be like, oh, okay, this one person said that. The rest of it's just garbage. You see this a lot on Amazon. Anyone do Amazon shopping, Amazon Prime? Amazon Prime is amazing. Like, what kind of day and age? We can order something today and get it tomorrow. That is awesome. Like, I love that. But you go on Amazon and you're looking to purchase something, and I do this. You look at the stars. You can even sort them by the rating, right? So I'll do that. Which ones are rated best? And then you go in, you see the rating. Okay, it's got 4 stars. Let's see what people had to say about it. You go through and you can read and you can see pictures, and it's great. It's very, very helpful. Then you get to that 1 star. And what I've noticed a lot of times with Amazon is that 1 star, it's usually, not all the time, but most of the time, it got messed up in shipping. Or, a part was broken. Or, a part was missing. They're actually leaving a 1-star review, not on the product because they never got to use it. They're leaving a review because, their experience was bad. And I get it, but you shouldn't review a product based off of what happened to you. That was no fault of the products, right? It was just a product of the shipping and the whatever. But we tend to leave negative expectations. We tend to leave negative comments when our expectations are not met. And that's what we do. We leave negativity. We'll leave negative comments or reviews before we'll leave positive ones. Let's have a little fun here. I want to, show of hands, I want to see how many of you guys do this. So how many of you would say, show of hands, that you leave reviews on everything, good and bad? Boom, right there. Done. We got 1. Awesome. All right, how many of you would say, I don't leave reviews on everything. I only leave reviews if I am super satisfied. Like, it was amazing, it was excellent, it was wonderful. Yeah, okay, a little bit more, okay. How many of you would say, I only leave reviews when I am super disappointed and I hated it? Yeah, and they're like, boom, me. I need people to know how much it sucked, right? That's what we do, right? And how many of you would say, I don't leave reviews at all. I don't have time for that. Okay, there, you guys need to help the world a little bit more. We all leave reviews, and ratings and reviews, they are important. It's just in the day and age that we live. And I don't think I've ever left a negative review. And let me be clear on something. I say negative. See, there's a difference between leaving an honest review and a negative review, okay? Now, sometimes the honesty needs to be told. It may hurt, but it's honest. But negativity never needs to be shared because you can be honest without being negative. And I know that sometimes the honest truth will still hurt, but it's helpful. But when you get negative, when you get mean, when you start using like things that are tearing down people, that's just not needed at all. Here's the other thing that I will say about rating and reviews. If you're not sharing a rating and review, it's almost as bad as sharing a negative review. You see, what you don't say, what you don't do, what you don't give, speaks volumes about how much you don't care. But what you do, what you say, what you give, that speaks volumes about how much you do care. Now, again, this goes far beyond ratings and reviews. I think it comes back to the heart of all of us, the heart of our culture. I think as a culture, we kind of lack common courtesy for other people. We don't share positive comments. We're very quick to share negative comments. I think we're a consumer culture where we take. And if we don't like it, we don't want it, and we let you know. We're also a busy culture. We're just too busy to give a positive review or to stop what we're doing. You see, when everything is going good for us, when everything's exactly the way that we want, when we get what we want, we keep going. We keep functioning. We keep operating. We don't say anything. But if something goes wrong, if something's a little bit off, if it's not exactly the way that we want, what do? We stop, we complain, and we share our negative 2 cents with whoever is the culprit in our problem. Let's take Starbucks, for instance. I know most of us probably drink Starbucks, or you drink coffee and we do it too much and they take all of our money and it's bad. But with Starbucks, I tend to work there a lot. I don't really have an office, so I float around to different coffee shops. It's great. It feeds my addiction. Anyway, So I'm in Starbucks a lot, and I know the guys at the Winter Haven Starbucks, and it's awesome. And, I was thinking about this the other day. I was in there. I was thinking about, and maybe you should think about this too, how many times have you stopped to let the barista know that your coffee was amazing, that your coffee tasted delicious, that they made it exactly the way that you wanted? I've done this at times, and it's almost like they're taken aback. They're like, wait, what? That I told them that they made it perfect, and like it makes their day. And here's why, because I sit in there and all day long. You know what I hear more than anything? You didn't make this right. Can you make it again? This isn't right. And we complain about how our coffee wasn't made right, or how it wasn't made perfect, or made exactly the way that we want. And listen, we paid a lot of money for it to be right. I get that. But I think the amount of times that we share our negative and complain versus the amount of times that we are positive and tell those people that they are doing an awesome job, man, it's out of balance. Now, I think we need to begin, sharing with people about how good they are doing. And those people at Starbucks, it is constant. There are people in there all the time. They got mobile orders, drive-through orders, people it's nonstop all day long. And I feel like we need to take the time to share kindness with them. But we don't. You see, our natural tendency is negativity. We're too busy. We're too worried about what we have to do next. We need our coffee to keep us going to where we're going next. It always seems like we have enough time, or we make enough time to share our negative 2 cents. And what if we began to flip that? What if we began to share positivity over negativity? Speaking of 2 cents, and you're like, I thought we were going to talk about the Good Samaritan. Let's look at the Good Samaritan and see how he shared his 2 cents. We're going to look at Luke chapter 10. Again, it'll be on the screens. Here's what it says, verse 30. It says, Jesus replied with a story. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and left him half dead beside the road. By chance, a priest came along, but when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. A Levite walked over and looked at him lying there, but he also passed by on the other side. Then a despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged them. Then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn where he took care of him. The next day, he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, take care of this man. If his bill runs higher than this, I'll pay you the next time I'm here. Here's what we see right out the gate. We know we got a man that's hurting, that needs help. The priest and the Levite, they kind of show up and they represent this busy consumer mentality. They didn't help because they had things to do. They had a schedule to keep. They were thinking about, well, what's in this for me if I help this man? And I think there were some negative thoughts that were going on too. What if the robbers are still around and they attack me? Well, I don't want to risk my life for someone else. Or maybe it could be a trap. Maybe this man is in cahoots with the other robbers that attacked him. And they passed by on the other side. And they did nothing. You see, their lack of action, their lack of caring, what it did is it showcased the posture of their heart. You see, they saw this need, right? Both of them saw that this man needed help. But what did they do? They passed by on the other side. And I think for you and I in our lives, we do this a lot. Sometimes consciously, sometimes we're not even paying attention to even know. And this happens, right? We'll be driving down the road and we'll see someone who's in need, someone who needs our help. They could be asking for money. They might need a ride. It could be anything. And what do? We pass them by on the other side of the road. And that happens to us. But I want to look more at it from the angle of passing people by online. Because we do this. As we're scrolling through Facebook, we have friends, we have family, we have, just acquaintances on there. And we use Facebook to connect with each other's lives. And so someone will post a hurt, a need, right? A way that they're suffering, that the pain that they're going through. And you want to know what we'll do? We'll go on there, we'll add a little reaction, right? We'll put a little sad face emoji on there. We might go into the comments and say, yeah, we're praying for you. And then what do? We just keep scrolling. We pass them by, right? See, the Levite at least was able to go over to this man and look at him. And I think Gave him a little sad face, right? And then what did he do? He's a religious man, so he probably said a few prayers for the guy laying in the ditch. And then he said, all right, cool, man. And then he passed by on the other side. The Levite did that. The priest, y'all, this dude, he's jacked up. Because he saw the dude from a distance and was like, nah. And he's just like, I ain't got time for that. And just kept on walking, right? Passed by on the other side. Like, that's jacked up. It's super jacked up. He just kept scrolling. Now, the Good Samaritan, what it says in the story is that the Good Samaritan felt compassion for this man. Now, here's the thing. It's great. You're scrolling on Facebook and you see someone going through something. It's great to share and let people know that you have felt compassion for them, that you have sentiment for what they are going through. That's awesome. But sentiment followed by action is so much better. And that's what the Good Samaritan did. He said, I feel compassion for this man. But I'm not just going to feel compassion for this man. I'm going to do something about it. And he began sharing of himself. Everything that he had, he shared with this man. And you see that he cared for him. He moved towards him. He took action. And he turned an extremely negative situation into a positive one. You see, he shared of himself so that this man could live. Because otherwise, this man would have died without the generous heart of the Good Samaritan, the generous heart of a complete stranger. They didn't know each other. And I want to talk about that, the generous heart of the Good Samaritan, because that's what he possessed. And he lived out in 2 Corinthians. Here's what it says about the generous heart of a good man. It says that in 2 Corinthians 9:7, that giving, generosity, sharing of who we are, it grows from our heart. That's where it grows from. Now, here's what I know. I've been in church a long time, and here's why I know this. The moment that I said that we were going to talk about generosity and sharing and giving, you're probably like, oh man, is this guy just going to ask us for our money? And the answer is yes. No, I'm just kidding. That is not the answer. It's not. And I desire for every single one of you to be generous, but I need you to understand that generosity goes far beyond your wallet or your bank account. It is so much more. Generosity, the generosity of a Christ follower is found in a stewardship principle that I learned a long time ago. And it says this, that we are to give of our time, of our talent, and of our treasure. It's threefold. Time, talent, and treasure. And here's the thing with the Good Samaritan. You know, as it comes to finances and giving being a only financial thing, do you think if the Good Samaritan, because we know he gave 2 coins, do you think if he would have just took 2 coins out and threw them at the man and said, here you go, buddy, good job? Like that doesn't solve the problem. Throwing money at this man. He needed so much more than just the financial part of it. He needed more than just this man's treasure. He needed his time and he needed his talent. See, giving is not just a financial thing. Giving, generosity, it's a heart issue in our lives. You see, what the Good Samaritan realized is that this man's life was more important than his next appointment. And I think some of us need to realize that. Someone else's life, someone else's hurt, someone else's pain is more important than your next appointment. We're too busy to see that. We need to make sure that we make people priority in our lives. So really, you know, the first thing that the Good Samaritan gave was his talents. You know, he served. He had his talents. He had what he knew. He had what God had given him. And so he bandaged this man. He took care of this man. He got this man out of the ditch. He put him on his own donkey. And then he led him, right? He led him to the inn, led him to the innkeeper. And that's what he had to give as far as his talents go and his time go. He sacrificed his time. He served with his talents. And then after that, he goes above and beyond, and he gave even more. You see, he gave of his treasure. And he gave 2 coins. He gave his 2 cents. You see, generosity is a heart issue. Sharing is a heart issue. And that's what we need to realize. I want you guys to know this, that generosity is threefold. It's threefold. And it's just like the Samaritan. The generosity of a Christ follower is this. We've got to sacrifice our time. We need to serve with our talents, and we need to give of our treasures. And that's exactly what the Good Samaritan did in this story. And I'll just say this, it's commendable to give of one or two. It's commendable to serve. It's commendable to sacrifice. It's commendable to just give. But you are most like the Good Samaritan in this story. You are most like Christ when you are practicing all three of these things. And so the question becomes, are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to serve? Are you willing to give? Are you willing to be like the Good Samaritan? You see, the Good Samaritan, man, he possessed something so much greater than just being generous, man. He was able to mend this man's wounds. He was able to give of his donkey. He was able to sacrifice some. If he would have just done those things, right? If he would have just said, okay, here, I'm going to mend your wounds, and here, I'm going to give you your donkey. There you go. That would have been commendable, right? But what he decided to do in this moment was to go the extra mile. He put the man on his donkey, and he walked beside it to get this man to the inn. And this isn't just like throwing someone in the back of your car and taking a 5-minute trip down the road. This was a day or more to get to the next town. He sacrificed so much. And then he gets there, and he could have said, hey, innkeeper, you got somewhere for this guy to lay for a little bit? Like, I helped him out. I fixed him up, but I don't have the money to put him up in a place. Can you take care of it? He didn't do that at all. No, what he did is he said, hey, here's the deal. I'm gonna pay you my 2 coins. I'm gonna pay you my 2 cents. And then he goes beyond that and says, if that's not enough, I'll come back tomorrow, and I'll give what this man needs to really survive, to be okay. So he gave his 2 coins. You know, it's funny, you read that, and I remember the first time I read it, I'm like, 2 coins? I'm like, sweet, what is that, a couple quarters? Like, here's 50 cents, there you go. But that's not the case. If you look into the context of the scripture, what you see is that 1 coin, that they're phrasing here, is the denarius, and 1 denarius equals an entire day's wages. Entire day. And so he gave 2 days' wages. Now let's bring this into context for us, right? Let's look at it and how it comes into our lives. So he gave 2 days' wages. We're gonna, and what we understand is that when someone shows up for the first time every Sunday, when a VIP comes here, when a complete stranger walks in, when someone walks through our doors for the first time, man, everything that we give, everywhere that we serve, everything that we sacrifice, it's all in an effort for them to embrace Jesus in their lives. You see, when we serve, when we sacrifice, when we give, it'll help someone come into a relationship with Jesus. And what I need you to know is that your generosity can affect someone's eternity. It's so important. That's how God wants to use us. That's why he's given us the things that we have, the talents that we have, the treasures that we have. And you see, the Good Samaritan was willing to give 2 days' wages. 2 days' wages. Let's look at how that would be in our lives, okay? Because here's the deal. I did the math on this. Minimum wage right now, $11 an hour. The average person works 8.4 hours. Let's round that up to 9. So you got $99 for 1 day. Let's just go ahead and say it's $100. If this is in our context, would you be willing to give a complete stranger $100? Would you be willing to give $200, 2 days worth of your time to help out a complete stranger? It's a generosity thing. It's difficult to think about. But we gotta remember that one act of generosity can change someone's eternity. You see, in our story, there were 3 men. Only 1 was willing to help. So here's the ratio: 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3 people in that story were generous. Now we put that into our church. Let's say out of 100 people is a third of ratio, and so that means 33 people here in our church are going to be like the Good Samaritan. And so if we do the wages, we do all that, and we say, okay, if 33 people are willing to give 1 day's wages, we got $3,300. If they're willing to give 2 days' wages to help a complete stranger, it's $6,600. But listen, if it's a 3-to-3 ratio, if everyone's willing to have a generous heart like a good Samaritan, guess what you get? 1 day ratio is $10,000. A 2 day ratio is $20,000. And here's the reality, with a 1 to 3 ratio, 33 people out of 100, it changes the impact of what God can do significantly. And don't think what I'm saying is that we can't still have an impact. God will use what we have to do his work in the people in this community, absolutely. But when it's everyone sharing and giving and serving and sacrificing, doing their part, the impact is so much more significant. And we can help so many more complete strangers who are lost, who are broken, who are hurting. You see, when you are generous, when you give to this local church, when you serve, when you sacrifice, it helps families, it helps marriages, it helps foster generosity, community, and authenticity. But most importantly, this is what we are all about. When we are generous, man, we help a complete stranger embrace Jesus Christ for the very first time. We are able to have an impact on their eternity. You got to understand that. What's at stake? When you are generous, you can help a complete stranger embrace Jesus. Again, it's a heart issue. And really, the question you need to ask yourself is this: does my heart break for what breaks God's? Do I have the same amount of compassion for every single one of God's children the same way he does? Am I desperate to tell people about Jesus in our community? Am I desperate to help people who are hopeless, who are in despair, and who are hurting? Am I desperate to help change someone's eternal destination? And we got to be desperate. And here's the reality: we cannot assume that someone else is taking care of it. And here's why I say that. Because the two people that should have taken care of this man, the priest and the Levite, do you know what their business was? It was helping people in need. That's what they were supposed to do. And the two people that were supposed to help, that were supposed to do the most, did nothing. And then the scriptures say that this man, the Samaritan, he was despised. He was an outcast. He was disreputable. And no one thought he would be the hero in the story, but he ended up being the hero that Jesus talked about. And that is the story of the gospel. And here's why I say that. Because Jesus, our Savior, who we read about in the scriptures, he was the least likely person to be the Messiah. So much so that they put him on a cross and they murdered him. His disciples, Peter, James, John, fisherman, tax collector, least likely to be Jesus' disciples and to start the early church. But he used them. You see, God uses ordinary, everyday people to accomplish his extraordinary, everyday work. And what I need you to know is that what you have now, what God has given you now, where you are now, your 2 cents is enough to have a kingdom impact. Your 2 cents is enough to help someone embrace Jesus in their life. You just got to be willing to share it. You just got to be willing to have a generous heart. You see, it's not what you have to share, it's having the heart to share it. Are you willing to give, to serve, to sacrifice? Will you have compassion on the lost, on the hurting, on the broken, on this complete stranger who is had a bad bout of luck, who's had everything crumble down on top of them? Are you willing to help them out? Or will you just pass by on the other side?